All right, thank you so much. The program is still this morning on ITV, on independent television. And I did say we're going to look at what really happened yesterday on the floor of the joint session, the National Assembly that our senators, the joint session that our senators had yesterday. Well, before that yesterday, we were going to look at what looked like a face-off between the IG and the Senate President. The IG calling on the Senate President to come forward to explain, give an explanation as it relates to the offer robbery. And of course, we're also told that the Senate President had to send his aide to collect a letter of invitation so that he can appear appropriately. Well, we're going to look at that before the issue of the 12-point resolution that the National Assembly had to give to Mr. President yesterday. Well, before that also, we also heard that the NPDP, that's members of the NPDP who are also members of the APC, former members of the PDP that came into the APC, that they had to step down on talks as it relates to the 2019 election with the president, simply because of some issues that they talked about, that the state congress that the APC did, that they were not too comfortable with some of the results, some of the cases, some of the issues that were reported, and also the offer robbery case that was leveled against, against the Senate President. They expressed concern over this, and they said that, okay, if the President was really not handling this in good faith, that they were stepping down, on talks with the President. Well, that was what we had yesterday. Before only, I was told that it was a joint section on the floor of the House of Representatives, whereby the upper chamber and the lower chamber had to come together and, had a closed-door meeting first separately before they came together to have that meeting. Well, looking at all this morning, we are so privileged to have Dr. Osahan Amayo with us here. He's a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to the program, Doctor.
Good morning, viewers.
Okay, and also we have Mr. Kenny. Mr. Kenny, welcome to this program this morning on ITV.
Good morning, viewers.
And also viewers are there. We are expecting Mr. Sonny Iledosa. If you listen to our radio programs, particularly Impact, and also you watch our This Morning on ITV, particularly Politics Today with Sonny Okosun every Saturday. There is this caller that we always call into the program, Mr. Sonny Iledosa, Sonny from Airport Road. I also had to invite him so that he can also be on this program today. So we are also expecting him so that he can join us and discuss some of the issues that we're going to be having here. And also we're also expecting Mr. Benedict Ejege, who is also going to be with us here on this program this morning. Gentlemen, one more time, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we should start from the offer robbery because it appears that all is now happening in sequence. The offer robbery, how the Senate President was called upon, invited, and of course later on how the NPDP had to how they had to decline the talks that they scheduled to have with the presidency as far as our 2019 election is concerned. Now, gentlemen, where is this leading us to? Let me start with Osahan Amayo.
Well, what you are seeing, what is playing out is 2019 politics. I don't, anytime I come here, I always tell people that the only thing we prepare for in Nigeria is election. We don't prepare for any other thing. We don't prepare for governance. We don't prepare for any other thing other than election. So what you are seeing playing out is pure politics. All these shenanigans about offer robbery, NPDP, and what have you, APC State Congress, is just 2019 politics that is playing out. A typical politician is interested in grabbing power. That's the only thing they are interested in. From 2015, I can tell you, Mr. Evans, these gladiators that you are talking about, they started preparing for 2019.
Yeah, but they are politicians. And you also said that a typical politician will always prepare for election.
Yeah. Just like the way you dress up in the morning, wear your clothes and come to ITV to come and resume work, That is how these people prepare for election, because they know that the only way they can remain at the corridor of power is to continue to be relevant. So the issue of inviting Saraki, you know, Mr. Saraki, the Senate president, happens to have no immunity. So it can be summoned at any given point in time, but let's look at it. Not that the armed robbers said that, the armed robbers didn't state that Saraki sent them to go and rob. They only said that they know Saraki. The fact that I know you as Mr. Evans and you have gone ahead to commit crime doesn't mean that I sent you to go and commit crime. So I think that point should be noted, because a lot of, you can see a lot of reactions both on the social media, the print media, and the electronic media. But nobody has really settled down to digest what the people said. They only said that they know Mr. Saraki, but he didn't send them to go and carry out robbery. But the only crime, I think the crime there is that they said that he has been arming them to cause violence during election. And that is an electoral offense that is punishable by law. Then number two, you also look at the issue of the NPDP. The NPDP, they know that they are no longer relevant in the scheme of things in the APC. And I can tell you that those people, I think 90%, they have made up their mind to leave the APC and join any other party that they feel they will be relevant.
Are you speaking for them?
From feelers that we are getting, I think most of them, they are moving to another party. Whether you like it or not, Saraki is the leader. Atiku used to be the leader of the NPDP. But as Atiku has moved to the PDP, Saraki automatically became the leader of the NPDP. And wherever Saraki goes, that is where most of them will go to. And most likely, most of them will go to the PDP from the way I'm seeing things. You can see what the reaction during last week or so when Senator Dylan Melai returned to the House. I think that move was to test the waters. I think it was acting a movie. Let them see what the reaction would be like if Dino decides to sit with the PDP lawmakers. You can see, we are already getting feelers that Saraki may give APC the Tambuwa treatment. They call it Tambuwa effect. Yeah. The campaign at the last minute. And the president too is men, they are not resting on their ass. You can see that they are willing to give Saraki equal, they are ready to fight him equally. You can see that the moves is like a chess game. You move, I move. You move, I move. But I think the issue of a robbery should be handled carefully. Okay. If not, it's going to have a very drastic effect in our democracy, not just 2019 election. You can see, as at yesterday, the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria had already met with Senator Saraki. Whether you like it or not, it's a big fish. It's not somebody that you can just relegate. He has his supporters. And we know that election in Nigeria is always violent. So we should try not to heat up the polity, because Saraki has his own followers, especially in the National Assembly. And you know these National Assembly members, they also have people in their constituency that are loyal to them. So automatically, Saraki wields so much influence in the country and outside the country, and whether you like it or not, money has a very big role to play in our politics. And this is somebody that has the financial war chest to also bankroll election. I even see Saraki contesting as a presidential candidate in 2019. Right, I think it's all about 2019 election. Let's just keep our fingers
crossed on that now. Viewers out there, I did tell you that we're expecting Mr. Sonny Igedusa. You know, all times when you listen to our radio programs, most especially our discussion programs, Impact and some other programs, you hear this guy that calls from Airport Road. Sonny, you're welcome today to Independent Television.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. All right. So let's look at the issue, gentlemen. Now, let me come to Ken Erunse. It becomes worrisome, perhaps, to some Nigerians that before the invitation that the IG made to the Senate President had earlier given an alarm. You know, kind of an alarm situation now that the Kwara State governor even put him on notice that he was going to be framed up into the offer robbery. And this came as a surprise to you? Did it come as a surprise to you?
Actually, it was not a surprise at all. To me and to so many Nigerians. It's an unfolding scenario. It's an unfolding movie that we're seeing in Nigeria today. It's unfortunate that these things are unfolding at this time, when we are supposed to be giving or rendering good governance to Nigerians, the government of the day, have decided to be acting films from one script to another. I mean,
how exactly do you mean? I mean, this is politics. Politics is activities.
Of course,
here
but
and
you see,
there.
there's a limit to politics, and there's a limit to, I mean, there's a thin line between politics and governance. You must differentiate it. If you're playing politics, you're playing politics. If you're governing people, you must render governance. Now, what I see unfolding here is it's an unfortunate scenario. This thing didn't just start with Saraki. It started long ago. We had the case of Senator Misao from Bauchi State who raised an alarm, or what is supposed to be, what do you call it? It's supposed to be a positive alarm to the government to work on. The senator raised an alarm about the IG, that he was corrupt, that he was collecting bribes from police officers to be promoted and to be posted. He raised so many allegations against the IG.
Nah, that was an allegation, yeah.
Yeah.
But it couldn't substantiate.
Listen, sir, one would have expected, even if he couldn't substantiate, the first thing the government would have done is to ask the IG to resign or be suspended. Because those are weighty allegations. That a lot of police officers are being deployed to oil companies and banks and all that, and this man collect money from them, run into billions every month, and today Nigeria is being under-policed.
If you say so,
so those were allegations made by Mr.
Would you have also, suggested that since an allegation was also leveled against Saraki, that Saraki would have resigned?
That is where I'm coming to.
Yeah.
The point is that we have refused not to build our institutions, and it's unfortunate. You will recall the present IG was invited by the Senate of recent on four occasions, and he refused to appear before the Senate. And now, the IG is
but there was the aide that he sent there.
That's what I'm saying.
In charge of public relations.
Those are the issues that are still in the public domain. We are still discussing those issues. Was he supposed to send an aide? He was invited. The IG, the person that was invited was the Inspector General of Police, not an aide to the IG. Just like they invited Saraki to come and answer questions.
Are you trying to say that
if Saraki decided to send one of his aides to Abuja or to the IG's office, how will he react to such a situation? That will be an abnormality. So the fact is that we are not respecting institutions, we are not building institutions in Nigeria, we are not entrenching institutions. And I tell you, all these are placed at the doorstep of the man at the ends of affairs we speak today, the President Buhari. We're at a point where we're actually getting it right in Nigeria. We're trying to, people were building institutions. I give credit to the last administration. These kind of things were very unusual in the last dispensation because those were people that believe in building institutions, respecting institutions as it were. This matter we're talking about, it's not about the person of Saraki. I want people to be knowledgeable about these things. Because when you say, oh, Saraki is this, is evil, is that, we are trying to talk about how to protect our institutions. Because without these institutions, democracy is dead. And the greatest institutions that entrenches democracy is the National Assembly, as it were. These are the people or the arms of government that are supposed to check the presidency. If you don't have the National Assembly, the presidency will do whatever they like and nobody can question them. And that is not about democracy. Democracy is about accountability, transparency. So coming back to the issue of Saraki being invited, yes, the police have right to invite him if they feel that he's being indicted or there's an allegation against him. But the point I'm looking at, was it in good faith? Was it not political? Doesn't it have something to do with his present disagreement with the IG?
How can you say it was political when somebody was alleged to have made a confession?
That is what I'm saying. With Nigeria, this is not a new scenario. We have had in this country issues where people were set up during the Abacha era. Government, I'm talking of government institutions or government as a body, setting up people to frame them for coup plotting.
Anyway, let me.
It is not a new thing in Nigeria politics.
Yeah,
I must tell you that.
So that we can also bring Mr. Sonny Gedusa into the program. Now, Mr. Sonny, let's look at the situation one more time before we look at some other issues. Can we say that it was probably a payback time from the IG to Saraki this time?
I think it's whoever's about to thank ITV You're almost for inviting me to this program.
And thanks for coming too.
Thanks, it has been a very great opportunity.
Yeah.
I want to say that this whole issue, if you look at what one of our discussers said and just the last submission made, we are actually speaking the same thing. We are all saying the same thing, just that we are looking at it from a different angle.
Okay.
You see, when you look at the issue, whether with Saraki, it raised the issue with Senator Misao, it raised the issue with the IG, we are dealing with people who truly do not have conviction. You understand? I was researching a document that I like to research on this North Korea, South Korea. Then the guy said the best time to jump out of the ship is when it's sinking, or else you sink with the ship. So I think that looking at this whole issue, whether it has to do with 2019, at the end of the day, the first priority is the Nigerian state.
Okay.
You know, when you say they are playing politics, of course you play politics everywhere, because like somebody said that everybody is looking for where the bread will be more buttered. You understand? So when he also raised the issue with the last administration, talking about a whole lot of this thing didn't come up. Yes, we can actually pretend that there's no issue for us to just move on. That's the reason why we have to be very careful. We have leaders who are bigger than institutions. That's the truth of the matter in Nigeria today. So you even have some area boys who are bigger than institutions. You know, I have a lot that I'm handling right now. You know, I do a whole lot of research, whether for local, international. I do a whole lot of personal study. I want to look at why do we behave the way we behave. You know, we have leaders who do not have conviction, and a man with conviction is a dangerous person. So if we have leaders, politicians in position of authority without conviction, we are going to have serious problems, and that is where we are facing this crisis right now. For example, you talked about, is it a payback time? This has nothing to do with a payback time. It's just that politicians do not know how to play politics. They don't know when to stop, and they don't know when to deal with the issue that has to do with. For example, around 2 a.m. this morning, I was looking at the 12-point resolution.
12 points agenda.
Agenda resolution that were brought forth. I was looking at it around 1 a.m. this morning, and you look at what they did there. They first of all went to the people, that the people first, the people first, the people second, the people third. Then it now got to the federal government must respect the National Assembly. Then it went on and said that do not interfere what the National Assembly is doing. Then when it got to number 10, he said a vote of confidence on the National Assembly.
On Saraki.
Yes, no, whether you talk about the leadership of the House, the vote of confidence. When it got to the IG, a vote of no confidence. Yeah. You understand? So you look at it that you are dealing with people who are actually concerned about themselves only. If you are concerned about the Nigerian state, there are things you must let go.
But I think we have to be mindful on the way we say that now, because these guys are our leaders. I mean, we elected them, you know, to be in the position and all that. So when we say they are concerned about themselves, what do you expect them to be doing there? I mean, these are issues that surrounds around their position, around their office, and around their duties.
Don't forget, I said on one of your radio stations that Senator Misao raised an allegation. At the end of the day, what happened? He was applauded. He was clapped for. I hope you remember. If that says Senator Misao raised an allegation against the House, do you think we'll be applauded? These are some of the issues we need to look at very critically. It is not a payback. I just said that is like we don't know what we are doing or how to do it and when to do it. That's the issue they are facing right now. Because you need to, sometimes it's not everything we quarrel. Sometimes we disagree to agree. Sometimes we just let go. We pretend that though it's not there, even when the issues are there, you know, just to get some, ensure that we drive the Nigerian state. Don't forget that the National Assembly were not there by themselves. Whether we truly voted for them or not, they came in there by the vote of the people. So in most cases, when the politics is being heightened, the first thing you will hear is that we need to do the reason why we're here because the people, they are watching us. But at the end of the day, it's the people that really suffer. So it's not a payback, because I have said before on your radio station, there was you brought this report on the radio, and I talked about, even though they invited the IG, they didn't invite the IG because the IG did something wrong. The IG represents the whole institution. So he needs to come and speak for the institution, what they are doing, what they have done so far, what they think they can do better. That's one. They inviting Saraki. They are not inviting the National Assembly. You also need to know that they were inviting Saraki because specifically there was an indictment on him. But I also think that you can't say because he was invited a number of times he didn't show up.
That was the idea, was invited.
Yes, he didn't show up. Then because of that one, you will also show up. That now shows that we have those who do not actually understand leadership position, who also want to take responsibility. Nobody can set up a number 3 man in the country. I don't think that would be possible, especially in the democratic system. When he's going there, he has his lawyers, he has a lot of people to pave way for him to ensure that whatever thing he's going to do, there's going to be, at least at the end of the day, it will give him result. But I also want to say that the Inspector General of Police also need to be very careful. You understand? Because he will not be there forever. He will live there, and sometimes he may even want to come through his state to contest for an election. He will come back to the National Assembly, like the scripture says, whatsoever a man sow, that's what we reap. So
let's just.
I just think that the best he can do. He was invited. He doesn't need to say I will not go because a clear culture will not fear accusation. So he can go there
invitation has even been stopped.
And say whatever thing he knows. But I also think that the General Police also need to be very careful, because don't forget that some few years ago, there was a friction between DSS and the police. Evidence, who killed this one. There several institutions were not the one killing one person. Whether the person died and he was resurrected again, things like that. So I think we can't rush to the media. The best they can do, they can also use their in-house investigation to ensure that they look at the matter. It's not in the media you will not say you want to invite the Senate President.
Let me pause you so that we can look at some other issues too. Now, the NPDP, former members of the PDP that joined the APC had to step down on talks with the presidency, simply because of issues still budging on the robbery allegation and the state congress that APC did. To them, there were some issues, there were some areas that they were not comfortable with. And of course, according to the story, they made their concern known to the presidency. But they said that the presidency, was not handling that in good faith. So as a result of that, they were stepping down on talks, with the presidency as it relates to 2019 election. Gentlemen, Doctor, let me start with you. What is the possible implication of this move? Let's quickly look at that before we go to the threats, resolutions that they gave to the president yesterday.
And before I answer your question, I would like to quickly correct my brother here. In the last administration, the opinion that I raised, during the last administration, I remember Dezani Alisi Madueke was invited a couple of times by the National Assembly. She didn't honor the invitation of the National Assembly. She even had to go to the High Court, I think Abuja High Court, to seek an injunction restraining the National Assembly from inviting her. I think when we are making some statements, we should not be emotional about them. What I'm trying to say is, the last administration, they also had their own, they had their own pitfall. This administration, they are not also learning. I think what's...
but we can't say they are not also learning.
They are not learning because if you see the path that they are towing the path of the last administration. What befell the last administration, if care is not taken, will also before this administration.
But you can't say so now because
first of all,
still have the election.
I know you just asked me a question. Jonathan couldn't handle the new PDP, the NPDP. He could, if he had handled that issue very well, if he had negotiated with Atiku and the Sarakis of this world, the Rabi Musa Kwankwasos of this world, I think he should have remained in power.
How exactly do you mean?
Because he lost 5 states. Whether you like it or not, politics is a game of numbers.
And choice too.
Yeah. I think when President Muhammadu Buhari came in, based on the perception that we have in this country that he's a man of impeccable character, that he has never soiled his hands, because we know that the greatest problem, one of the greatest problems we have in this country is corruption. So he was elected on the matter of change. He didn't really want to associate himself with some APC chieftains because he perceived that these people are corrupt. He doesn't want to be associated with them. But as time, with time, he now discovered that he needs these people. Whether you like it or not, in politics, you need the good, the bad, and the ugly. You cannot tell me that Saraki leaving your party will not dent, will not give a major blow to your party. We are talking about heavyweights here.
Yeah,
These are people that
Saraki don't say he's leaving at the
whether
APC
you like
now.
it or not, they said they are no longer negotiating with the APC leadership. Because if they are negotiating with the vice president, the person of Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, Yemi Oshibanjo will still relay whatsoever decision or agreement to the president. Yeah. So the box tossed on the table of Mr. President. I think Mr. President should come down from his high horse and meet with these people and negotiate with them. Politics is all about horse trading. Definitely, the new PDP, they know that they cannot get all they are asking for. But let us find a common ground. I'm not a member of APC. I'm only saying that for the president to remain in power beyond 2019, he needs these people. Whether you like it or not, these are major players in Nigeria politics. The likes of Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso has a court figure in Kano State. He has his own followership. It's called the Kwankwasia movement. If you go to Kwara State, I don't think you can win an election in Kwara State without Senator Saraki. If you go to Sokoto State, it's not even in good terms with Tambuwa, who happens to be the governor, even the former governor of Sokoto State. So you can see that there's virtually no state in the country where the APC have no crisis. If you go to Oyo State, just imagine the last by-election that was conducted in Oyo State, the APC lost out to the PDP. And we know that in the Southwest, the APC used to be a very strong party in the Southwest. But with the way they are going, what befell the PDP before the 2015 election?
We can't say so because it is the election.
We are already seeing the handwriting on the wall. Because a lot of persons deceived President Jonathan then that they would deliver for him, even when these people leave the party. And they could not deliver. In Kwara State, for example, that is the home state of the Minister of Information, Alajilai Mohammed. Maybe they are also telling the president that forget them, let them go, that they will be able to deliver, whether you like it or not. In Kwara State, Lai Mohammed is a paperweight politician, with all due respect to him.
Okay. Now, let's hold that now. Let's look at the issue one more time, Mr. Kenny Runse. I think the greatest challenge for Nigerians is for them to really understand these people, the politicians we're talking about now. We have the NPDP, former PDP people, now in APC. Now, for the average Nigerian, he probably see them as, okay, one politicians, the same politicians belonging to the same political party. Now, for this NPDP to now be demanding for some concerns as it relates to the state congress, as it relates to security issues and all that, is it not is a challenge? Because to the average Nigerian, these people, are they still in PDP or are they in PDP really?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Evans. Before I answer your question, I will just have to correct one impression my colleague here was saying.
No, just say you react to the impression.
Well, let me react to him too. The last administration is on record. You know, when we talk about records, facts, you can't debate it. You go there, you Google them, you get the facts. Most of the officials that were invited to the National Assembly did answer their call. In fact, there was harmony, as at that time, you cannot dispute that. There was harmony between the National Assembly and the presidency during the last administration. There was no rancor like we have now. So I don't think there was any basis why the officials of government then wouldn't answer the call of the National Assembly after that. There was none, not that I'm aware of. So let's leave that aside. Going forward, now this issue of politics, there's one misconception about some Nigerians, even till now. The sole tag given to Mr. President as at that time, or even some still assume it, impeccable character or integrity. It does not tally with the reality on ground today.
No, why are you saying so?
Yes, the reality is that this same, coming to the NPDP, these same people you call devils, that you feel you cannot work with, you accommodated them when you needed their votes or their funds and their support when you were vying for presidency. It would be hypocritical when you needed them then to get to the presidency. And when you now got to be a president, you no longer want to see their face. That is the height of hypocrisy.
But the president has not said so.
No, I'm just responding to some of the things he said that perhaps he decided not to do with them. No, that is false. The point is that it's just power play. What transpired at the National Assembly started from the fact that Saraki, in his right, constitutional right, wanted to be Senate president. And Buhari, to be fair, is not the only person that have done that. Obasanjo did that severally. Buhari wanted somebody that he feels will be loyal to him. You know, there's one problem we have in Nigeria, especially in Nigerian democracy. Leaders, presidents, always tend to believe that they need somebody at the ends of the National Assembly to be loyal to them.
Don't you also think, Mr. Ken, in fairness to the president, I remember when Saraki emerged as the Senate president.
Yes.
There was really no much reaction from the president.
But that is what,
despite.
But you will remember, you will recall that when they were doing the election at the National Assembly, these people were supporting the other candidate then, I think Ahmed Lawan. We were with the president having a meeting with him. What does that tell you? He was already biased at the beginning. And these guys are all APC people, are all APC guys. How can a president who's supposed to be #1 leader, father to all, become biased?
No, you can't say biased.
No, but listen, I'm recalling what transpired in this country. He had a meeting with a group of people at the villa while the election was being held in National Assembly.
Did you expect the president to be there? Are you saying that
there was a meeting called?
There was a meeting called.
A meeting was called.
At least at the instance of the president
was not at the meeting.
Okay, let's even leave that. That is not the point of contention. Let me
get your thoughts, Mr. Ken.
That's where I'm going to. I'm trying to go to.
The president ought to have been in that meeting.
No, I'm saying that at the beginning, or even if he didn't have that intention at the beginning, but what has been happening from the moment Saraki became Senate president up to today, point to the fact that perhaps Buhari never wanted him to be Senate president. That is the impression we have. Now, that is what is resulting to this infighting amongst them. And it is affecting governance, whether you like it or not. When the National Assembly and the president begin to have these altercations here and there, it will definitely affect governance. There's no two ways about that. Now, coming to the issue of the NPDP, yes, like I would just tell you point blank here that politics is a game of interest. There was no way. My colleague too was pointing to the fact that Jonathan could not negotiate with them. The negotiation these people were asking for at that time was the presidency. There was nothing else. Kwankwaso wanted to be president. Saraki probably wanted to be president. The rest of them had the ambition. Amechi wanted to be VP.
So what do you think is their negotiation?
That is where we are today. That is why I tell you politics is about interest. They wanted the presidency from Jonathan. And Jonathan wanted to be a president. And there was no way Jonathan would have surrendered his presidency to them. So that was why the talk broke down. And that was why there was no headway. And they had to leave. Hoping maybe when they get to APC, they will actualize their ambition. Kwankwaso have never hidden his intention to be a president of this country. We all know that from the fact. So the fact that when Kwankwaso now, why is there a problem between these NPDP guys and Buhari or the APC as we speak? It is a matter of interest. Kwankwaso still want to be president.
And that's probably not in their own interest.
Of course, it's not in Buhari's interest. It would have been easier to manage if Buhari was not contesting. If he was not recontesting, it would have been easier to manage. But it cannot be managed because that will affect Buhari's ambition. Now, perhaps Saraki also want to be president. And some of these players, Atiku left because his presidential interest was jeopardized at that point when he now realized that Buhari was coming for a second term. There was no way he was going to get contest with Buhari in the primaries and win. He knows that as a politician. He had to just withdraw and go back to PDP. Now, the same thing playing out. What played out in 2014 is what is playing out in 2018. So that is the interesting thing about politics. Now, APC took advantage of that then, in 2014, to hold this party aside and got their support, and even their financial support as well, and the vote. It is outrageous, the vote that came out from Kano State in 2014, 1.9 million votes. Till now, it is still debatable. How could we have an election where there were no void votes, and you got 1.9 out of about 2 million registered voters? It is still a matter of...
Well, that was the result that...
Anyway, it is still debatable as we speak. But Kwankwaso delivered that, hoping that that will give him an edge to be the candidate of APC when it comes to the next election. But today, all that is history now. Okay. Now, the same Kwankwaso, let me go to the NPDP. There is no way they are not going to pull out from APC because their interest will not, definitely not, be taken care of in APC as we speak. Kwankwaso wants to be president. No two ways about it. Atiku wanted to be president, or he still wants to be president. That's why he left. Kwankwaso will definitely leave. But where he's going to, I wouldn't know. So this should be a lesson to politicians, really. Politics should not just be about personal and selfish interests. The kind of politics we play here in Nigeria is about personal and selfish interests. The fact that you want to be a president or you want to contest for a position does not mean that you must hold a man at the ends of affair. You hold him to ransom. Oh, if you don't allow me get my way, I will decamp or I will, withdraw my support from you. That is the kind of politics we play here. Negative politics, okay, if I must tell you the truth.
All right.
So to round it up, the NPDP threat to move out of APC is a reality. And they are going to
Are
move
you
out.
speaking? Are you their spokesman?
No, but the signs are there. Like he said, I agree with him. The signs are there. It's glaring. Like in 2014, so it is in 2018. Their interest, like I just told you, their interest will not be taken care of in APC. Most of them have lost out in their party politics. Okay. You understand? In their internal party politics. So, like Dogara, for example, is not in control of his party executives. So, what will be his interest?
Why you don't have
those are the facts on the table.
You just said that, but is that true?
Yeah, that's the fact. It's part of the reason why he's pulling out. You know, as for Saraki, although he has the structure in his fold, but perhaps he wants to be president.
Anyway, let's look at some other issues. Just like what we said, that we're going to be looking at the resolution that the Honorable House had to make yesterday, about 12 points resolution that they made. Well, let's just quickly see what happened yesterday on the floor of the House of Representatives, the joint session that the upper chamber and the lower chamber had yesterday, so that we can do more talks on that. Just watch this video clip.
House of Representatives was visibly in a hurry to round off the session. Few items were taken in the order paper for the day, not long after the press got to know the reason behind the seeming haste in the activities of the House. The reason was no other than the two chambers have scheduled to hold an executive session. The executive session lasted for over 3 hours. Expectantly anxious journalists waited. When the green chambers finally opened and the press were allowed into the gallery, President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, who presided over the session, with the Speaker of the House, Yakubu Dogara, said the two chambers in the course of the closed session reached some resolutions, which include, among other things, that the President should order security agencies to, as a matter of urgency, stop the incessant killings in the country.
The security agencies must be given the marching orders to curtail the sustained killings of Nigerians across the country and protect the life and properties of Nigerians, as this is a primary duty of any responsible government. 2, the systemic harassment and humiliation by the executive of perceived political opponents, people with contrary opinions, including legislators and judiciary, by the police and other security agencies must stop. There must be, 3, there must be strict adherence to the rule of law and protection for all citizens by the President and all his appointees. 4, the President must be held accountable for the actions of his appointees and must be ready to sanction those that carry out any act which will ridicule or endanger our country and our democracy. 5, the government should show sincerity in the fight against corruption by not being selective and also prosecute current appointees that have cases pending against them. 6, the sanctity of the National Assembly should be protected and preserved by the federal government by not interfering in the business of the National Assembly and prosecute those who invaded the Senate to seize the mace.
Other resolutions include the President should address the growing rates of unemployment in the country, among other things.
Democratic elections must be competitive and inclusive by removing the present reign of fear and intimidation, particularly as we approach the forthcoming 2019 elections. The National Assembly will liaise with the international communities through the IPU, APU, ECOWAS Parliament, CPA, Pan-African Parliament, EU, US Congress, UK Parliament, United Nations to secure our democracy. The National Assembly will also work closely with civil society organizations, trade unions, NGOs to further deepen and protect our democracy. Resolution 9, the President must take immediate steps to curtail the growing level of unemployment and poverty in Nigeria, especially now that we have the advantage of the oil price rising up to $80 per barrel. 10. Both chambers of the National Assembly hereby pass a vote of confidence on the Senate, President, the Speaker, and the entire leadership of the National Assembly. 11. We also hereby reaffirm our earlier resolutions of the vote of no confidence on the Inspector General of Police, who does nothing other than preside over killings of innocent Nigerians and outright disregard for constitutional authority of both the executive and the legislative. And finally, the National Assembly will not hesitate to evoke its constitutional powers if nothing is done to address the above resolutions passed today.
For now, Nigerians are watching and waiting if the president will comply with the resolutions or not. Charity Tanko, ITV News, Abuja.
All right, thank you so much. There you had the president of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, in the joint section there yesterday, giving out the 12 resolutions. Some say 12 points resolution agenda to Mr. President. But one thing seems to be very, very glaring. It seems that another era of a deteriorating relationship between the executive and the legislature, it's just, that's the way some people have characterized that, issue. But gentlemen, let's look at this, these issues one more time. The 12, resolutions that the ultimatum require the president to give marching orders to security agencies to curtail the killings of innocent Nigerians. It called for an end to harassment and humiliation of privileged, perceived political opponents by the police. Now, we have them from number 1 to number 12. But from what people seem to be, the way people seem to be looking at this thing, that this thing seems to be an NPDP resolution, not necessarily the National Assembly, Joint Session National Assembly resolution. Dr. Amayo.
Well, if you may see it from that point, based on the numerical strengths of the PDP members and the NPDP members that have indirectly fused into the PDP, indirectly. Because whether you like it or not, the chairman of the National Assembly, who happens to be the Senate President, wields enormous power in both chambers. He has his supporters both in the upper chamber and in the lower chamber. And, the problem we have in this country, when people get into office, there's this wall that they tend to build. We build persons, we build individuals instead of building strong institutions. So we have a lot of strong individuals and weak institutions. And people forget that they will leave this office tomorrow weakened and another person will come in. I think if you ask former President Olusegun Obasanjo today, I think there are a lot of things that he would like to correct about the office of the president. But whether you like it or not, it's no longer in office. I don't think, not a matter of think now, he can never become Nigeria's president. So the ills that he would have committed as president, he cannot right them again. He cannot right the wrongs again.
Well, that's typical of every human.
It's so typical of African leaders that when they get into office, I don't know whether the power that they wield, they tend to use it on the negative side instead of on the positive side. That when they leave, you see that they regret using such powers like that. I remember watching President Jonathan in Ekiti when he went to commission the flyover. He said that President Buhari should not play into the hands of his party, that he knows that there will be so much pressure, enormous pressure on him to rig the forthcoming election. I'm going somewhere. I'm just building a momentum. That he knows that there will be so enormous pressure on him to rig the forthcoming Ekiti election. So that's to tell you that he too, when he was in power, there was so much pressure on him to also rig for his party. So you can see that it's not the problem that we are having in this country is not really an APC thing, neither a PDP thing. I'm neither for APC nor PDP. I'm for the Nigerian people. I want a situation whereby I can raise my hand up high and see that I'm in Nigeria and I'll be respected globally. That is what I stand for. That is what I represent. And I think any politician, any leader that wants to rule or govern this country well should have that at the back of his mind, that I'm representing the Nigerian people. I'm no longer representing my party. I'm no longer representing my people. What we are having at the resolution, I can tell you that a lot of politicians, the cabal that are close to the president, will tell him that the resolution should be swept under the carpet, that they cannot do anything.
Yeah,
because
Mr.
those people, what they are interested in is just their personal interest.
All right, Mr. Ken, just like what we saw yesterday also, we saw members of the parliamentary support for Buhari, you know, not really too bothered with these resolutions. We understand that resolutions are really not binding. They are just advisory. But the situation we're trying to look here is that if these honorable members are really not together, to what extent can they go?
Yes, like in every 12, there must be a Judah. It is normal in everywhere. Politics, business, whatever. The point, that does not take the fact away that those resolutions we just had, or we just listened to, are noble resolutions. It borders, if you read from almost, because some of my colleagues may not agree with me, but let's be factual. What they raised there are the things that Nigerians have been raising for the past few months.
But how come these resolutions are just coming now?
What is number one resolution? I want to mention the number
Nigerians, these people,
the number one resolution, yes,
they represent Nigerians, and Nigerians have been talking about it.
Mr. Emma, the number one resolution, sir, it's clear.
Yes.
He said the security agents should curtail this series of killings and violence across the country. And that was the reason they invited the IG. Yes. True of us. One of the reasons the IG was invited and he refused to attend was for him to come and explain why the killings were rampant in Nigeria.
There was something in addendum that he should also explain why a senator was arrested.
No, that is part of it. I'm just
that
saying,
was part of it.
Yes, but the major issue
is because of the bad law. Let me quick. It's because of the bad law that has been in existence between the Senate and the IGP, okay. Not just the executive now. Because on a very good day, if you are inviting ITV, the group managing director or the chairman of ITV can actually send any of ITV staff to go and represent him, because you are inviting ITV. You are not inviting the occupant of that office. You are inviting the IGP. The IGP is an office.
I will correct you again, sir. The IGP, Inspector General of Police, is an individual. Yeah. The Nigerian police is an institution. Yeah. If you are inviting the Nigerian police, yes, you can send the PRO, the police PRO.
No, what I'm trying to say,
please, let me
the IGP was, let me quickly say, the IGP was invited, and the IGP, I'm not trying to hold brief for the IGP. The IGP can actually delegate, but you must not delegate at all points in time. The IGP ought to have respected the Senate as an institution by honoring their invitation. You can actually go in person, or you can actually send one of your aid. In fact, the PPPRO, the Police Public Relations Officer, would have even been in a better position to even answer the Senate.
All right,
not the IGP.
Mr. Kendrick,
yes, so that I will not
forget your point. Yeah.
The point was, we are trying to raise here, we don't need to argue too much about the IG. We all know that the IG is an individual. The Nigeria police is an institution. Now, just like the Senate president is an individual, the Senate of the Federal Republic is an institution. If you invite the Senate president, he goes there as his person as the capacity of as the Senate president. If you invite the Senate, he can delegate the duties. Let's leave that aside. Now, to come to your question, you were talking about the issue of.
We're looking at the issue of how far they can go.
Okay, yes,
because
yes.
This yes,
yes, the resolution, yes, obviously. It is normal in every political cycle. Sycophancy are allowed. Sycophancy is normal in politics. There are people in that same National Assembly who are sycophants, who are supporters of the president. Yes. It is usual. Even in the previous administration, we had them. Yes, some were fighting against Obasanjo, some were supporting Obasanjo, some were fighting against Goodluck, some were also supporting Goodluck. It is usual in any political gathering, even in the state. You have some party people who are with the state governor, some are not with them. Even within the same political party, it is normal in politics. So that is not really an issue. But the issue here is that resolution, it is a noble cause. It's a noble one. The bigger part of that resolution was, or what people should deduce from the resolution taken here was that the government should respect institutions like the National Assembly. That's when they were talking about the issues of National Assembly, the government, the president should not interfere in the National Assembly issue. What they were simply trying to imply is that the presidency must learn to respect the institution of the National Assembly, because the National Assembly have been doing their duty. Part of their duty is oversight function, and when necessary, call for officers of those ministries and departments. If there are needs for questions to be asked them. But this have been, as we speak, recently, the IG and even the custom and some other officials of government have bluntly, disrespected them. Okay. So the need for us to, like I said, the former president of America, Obama, once said, Africa should learn to build institutions, not strong men. One thing that's wrong with our democracy in Nigeria, or people, Africans, is that we like to believe in personality, persons. If it's not this man, nobody else. My point is that if this man is dead tomorrow, what happens? Does it mean the country will collapse? No. If you don't build institutions, you have living room for the generations yet unborn to blame us. To blame those of us who are existing now. Okay. Now, Sonny Gedusa, we also have that the resolution also talks about to ensure strict adherence to rule of law, while the president must be held accountable for actions of his appointees. Then we also have another one that says that the government must show sincerity in its fight against corruption, protect the sanctity of the National Assembly, and prosecute the persons who recently invaded the legislative premises and made away with the Senate's maze. And also the lawmakers decided the National Assembly would liaise with ECOWAS, Parliament, the EU, UN, and civil society organizations to ensure to save the country's democracy, and just on down till number 12. Now, but for some people, they see these resolutions as rather personal, maybe trying to drag the Senate president into it, that the Senate president was probably taking his personal issues, personal issues from the legislature to the executive. I don't know how you want to react to that. Looking at the robbery case, how the IG was invited, how he didn't go, and of course how the Senate president was also invited. How do you see all of this?
Do not forget, I started by saying that we have men in position of authority who do not have conviction. And when you do not have conviction, anything goes. For example, coming into ITV, before the security guard opened the gate, he first of all asked me a question. I didn't walk my way here. Okay. Not to talk about going to the State House of Assembly. The bottleneck you have to go through is not a joke. Not to talk about somebody going to the National Assembly and going away with the maze. I have said before, when President Buhari was sworn in, although it wasn't the open letter, the letter I wrote to him, the only letter I wrote to him. Oh, you wrote to the president? Yes. How come yours was not published? No, because it was not an open letter. Okay. I wrote him a letter, copy the First Lady of Nigeria, pleading with him that what I have seen since 1999 is something that constantly repeats itself. That please, he must correct it. I know that you have a body language. When you leave office 4 years or 8 years later, your body language goes with you. So we don't want body language. We want strong institutions. We want institutions where what happened like in America, why you found out that Hillary Clinton was coming out for presidency, the FBI, the security apparatus, didn't have to go through President Obama to say, look at what we found. They went outside and did what they needed to do. And that was already an indictment on Hillary Clinton, yeah, without making any move. For example, do you know that when a vice president is coming to Benin now, to either commission or a groundbreaking ceremony, a whole lot will go into that, not just the financial aspect of it, security area and everything has to be taken into consideration. We need an institution where water is given here without noise making about it. We need an institution. When somebody does something wrong, you don't need to start saying, let's see the president first. The president was supposed to be brief. That's the reason why you have the Inspector General of Police. He's to do his job. The Army General is to do his job. Without the president have a lot on his table. He needs to think. If you look at the resolution, there's nothing wrong with it at all. The only one I have problem with is the one that has to do with the National Assembly voting the confident on themselves and not voting confident on
the IG.
That's the way. If you look at every other, from one, where you talk about the killings that be going on, it's a very noble cause. So they've not said anything wrong. So what we need to do is to look at the message. Forget about the message at this time. Yeah. This message now, is it true? Is it reality right now? Are there killings that's going on? I'm sure you heard my story, how I did a farm. A month and a half before we harvest, cattle destroyed everything. My joy is the fact that I didn't borrow money. We have to borrow 154,000 naira to pay off about 17 people that were working with us. Nobody knew about that. We are still existing. So that one is enough for me to go into armed robbery. That one is enough for me to go into doing all manner of stuff. So that's the reason why the president must take responsibility. Whether it's a minister or whatever, they were appointee of the president. So if he cannot curtail, if he cannot deal with, if he cannot put together, he cannot bring them to line, when his ministers are not going right, then he takes responsibility for them. Because at the end of the day, Nigerian people did not vote for somebody like Chris Ngege. They voted for Mr. President. So Mr. President always said, don't forget that. He said, we will quickly put together competent Nigerians who will be able to help us. Because Nigerians are in a hurry, they can't wait. So now he has finally brought his team together. So if the things are going wrong, the boys talk at the table. Don't forget that several money from the Paris Club were reformed. They were in a hurry to quickly grab it. Then when you talk about the problem of the road, infrastructure and all that, they blame the problem of distribution. You cannot take...
but we're also saying...
No, you cannot... What I'm dealing with, what I'm saying here is that you cannot take asset and refuse liabilities. Asset and liability goes together. So when you agree to take asset, you must take liabilities. So we can hold someone like Rotimi as responsible. The Senate President or the Senate or the National Assembly, they can call them and say, this thing is not going right. What do you think we can do better? That's why I want the National Assembly to begin to look at it. That it's not about, let's just destroy this right now, since they are doing this. Because I tell you something, if the issue about the offer robbery is withdrawn, if the issue of this of the maize is withdrawn, and the issue that has to do with the IGP is dealt with and is toned down, I'll tell you all this thing with John Natural just fizzle right. But not until that one is done. What they are saying right now is that we also have the tools. But Mr. President Buhari can also be a very man with a clean hands who has not sold his hand. But you see, they can actually make the issue of governance and government become very unrealistic. Okay.
Now, gentlemen, as we wrap up because of time now, let me come to Amayo. Well, we're just going to take 1 minute each because of time. Now, we are yet to see reactions from the presidency. Maybe later on our news, and of course I urge you to watch independent television news later this evening at 7:30. Then of course we're going to start getting reactions from presidency and all that. Now, how do we think, how do we expect the presidency to start reacting to these resolutions now, Amayo?
I think the presidency or the president should start implementing what he campaigned with in 2014. That should be paramount on his table. They don't even have time. So we are here now. We are talking about problems.
I was saying that.
See, most times when you call on me, I root for this country.
No, you
because
don't have
anytime
to
you call on me, we are coming here to talk about trouble. We are coming here to talk about problems. When are we ever going to sit down and talk about improvements? And talk about social welfare, infrastructural revolution. We are here talking about problems, the shenanigans of people. These are people that are not just more than 100, sitting down, deciding and determining the fate of over 200 million people. If you know the
but they are our leaders. They are our leaders.
They are not leaders. They are rulers. They are not leaders. They are rulers.
Okay, they are not leading us well.
Yeah. So 1 minute quickly.
Like I've said in many fora where I've been appointed to discuss with people, I see this present president, Muhammad Buhari, is not in control.
No, you can't say so. You can't.
No, I say that is a problem. That is a problem of his own.
No, the point is that he's our president.
No, I'm trying to make a point. I've not said that.
It's his personal opinion.
It's my opinion. I have the right to say something. They do that in America. It's only here we try to,
he's our president.
Yes, that is what was correct.
Except if you are saying that.
Yes, that is why this is. We have it as a duty. We owe it as a duty to correct the president when he's going wrong. We don't need to keep pampering the president. If we want somebody that we want to pamper, we'll put a 2-year-old boy there as the president of Nigeria.
All right, thank you.
So seriously, the point I tried to make it just now, the very now was that We have a president who don't seem to be in charge of his
All right,
cabinet.
no, you can't say so. No, you can't say so.
That is my humble opinion.
That's been personal. You have to take that.
No, because, okay, for example, the president went to Benue.
Mr. Ken,
he went to Benue to sell.
Mr. Ken, we're talking about our president. You can't say not in charge of his family. So
no, I said his appointees. I said his appointees.
Okay.
That's what I said.
All right, so
you got me wrong. I said the president seems to not be.
Just hold on. You've made your point now quickly.
Honestly speaking,
it's
not too late to get it right. It may start a process. You have heard from several men we brought here. Politicians is always concerned about the next election. Statesmen always talk about the generation and the citizen. So I want to play with the Nigerian president and those in the leadership assembly and all that they need to look at the primary responsibility why they went into office.
All right, thank you. Thank you because of time. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Doctor, thank you so much for coming to the program. And also to Mr. Ken Erunse and also Sonny Gedosa. It's your debut on this program today.
Thank you.
And we hope we're going to have more of you on this program. Yeah,
thank you very much.
So much.
You're welcome.
All right, viewers out there, we'll take a short pause now. Please stay tuned.